It's finally here, the new Canyon Aeroad for 2021. Boy, did we have to wait a long time for it. Coming up, we look at the new Canyon Aeroad. We look at the old Canyon Aeroad. We look at the competitors. We look at the different versions in the range, and then we look at some price data from the competitors and the Canyon Aeroad range for 2021. So here it is, the new Canyon Aeroad. What do we think? I guess looking at it, it's not a massive surprise because we've seen all the photographs of it in the Tour de France and Van der Poel riding it for about a year. So I guess we all kind of knew what to expect. It's got a few little tricks up its sleeve that I was quite interested to see. And as ever, it's stiffer, it's more aerodynamic, it's faster, and according to all the bump, it's lighter. Okay, so the first thing to do is to compare it with the old Aeroad, because Canyon say they've updated the geometry on the new version, and they have made it less aggressive and more like the Ultimate, which is their lightweight all-round racing bike. So here we go. The old Aeroad, the new Aeroad. And looking at that, it would seem that's exactly what they've done. They've lifted it up at the front a little bit and pulled it back a little bit. We can also see that we've got more tyre clearance here by lifting up the top of the forks. And if you saw the launch video, you'll know that the way that the stem joins the top of the fork tube here is all very different to normal. I'd love to explain it to you, but I don't really understand it. But what it means is you've got a little bit of adjustment without having to cut the fork steerer. So that's quite an innovation, I think. We can clearly see there that the seat post is more aerodynamic and actually quite a clever system they have going on here. So usually if you have a big fat aero seat post like this, then the ride quality can be very harsh. Again, Canyon have done some supersonic engineering back here, and watch the launch video if you want to fully understand it, but basically the seat post is half and half supporting, half not supporting, clamped very low down, and it's all very clever, but it means that it's not such a harsh ride. So clearly more aerodynamic there. The seat stays are much beefier, much more aero. We've got more tyre clearance. Chainstay is very similar, except they're a little bit shorter now. Bottom bracket the same height, and the front axle's in the same place. So there we have it, the old Canyon Aeroad, the new one, kind of what we were expecting as far as the geometry really. What I wasn't expecting, having read all the bump and learnt about how they've managed to make the frame lighter and blah blah blah, and this Dura Di2 version being the lightest one in the range at 7.26 kilograms, I then found it a little bit odd that this old version here is actually lighter, 7.1 kilograms. So that's a bit odd, isn't it? And I got these weights straight off their website. So there it is, a little screen catcher there. So yeah, I don't know what's going on there. So they've made it more like the Ultimate. Let's have a look. Here is the Ultimate CFR Dura Di2. So yeah, not a million miles off. The Ultimate has slightly longer chainstays, but you can clearly see how much more aerodynamic the Aeroad would be with its different tube profiles. So did you see those handlebars? Pretty cool, huh? Undo a few screws, you can pull them out and fold them down. So I suspect it'll be a bit of a love-hate relationship here that people have with this, a bit like the funny double layer handlebars that Canyon made for their Grail gravel bike. But I think it's good, they're trying to innovate here. There's a few questions pop up obviously. How durable this is going to be in the long run, and if you've seen all the videos you'll know that you can change the width of the bars. I think there's 3 different settings. I'm not quite sure what happens in these bits here. Do you get a little cover to go on there, or do you put the tape over there? You're not going to leave it like that, are you? That's a question mark I have there. Definitely an interesting concept. We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Hopefully there won't be any nasty recalls on that if it fails. And here's a photo of that fancy stem thing going on with the cables running through the stem down the head tube into the frame. And yeah, all looks very complicated. So let's compare it to some of its competitors. First up, the Trek Madone. This is one of the top of the range eTAP access group set versions of the Madone, and I've said it a million times, it's staggeringly expensive at £11,950. Fading between the two, they've actually got fairly similar geometry actually. Madone's got much chunkier forks. It's quite remarkable how slimline the Canyon stem is, considering that the cables are inside it. I've never thought of the Madone stem as being a big chunky chunkster, but it looks quite big there. Obviously the Madone has the ISO speed decoupler system there for the comfort, and the Aeroad seat tube is set further back. The Aeroad is a smidge longer. Next up, the Scott foil, or the Batmobile as I like to call this one. It's fading between the two there. I do like the look of this foil. I think it looks kind of mean. Aeroad coming with the deeper wheels. Interesting that Canyon have put a 17mm internal rim width front wheel on, 20mm internal rim width rear wheel on, which is actually quite old fashioned in this day and age. Not sure what the maximum tyre clearance is on the Scott, but looks like you probably get bigger tyres on the Canyon. Again, Scott's stem is a lot chunkier than the Aeroad, and the Scott has a much slimmer seat post. Look how skinny the Scott seat stays are. Much slimmer. So the Aeroad is a bit lighter and a bit cheaper. Here's one I've been looking forward to. The giant Propel. Fading between the two. I do like the Propel, other than this one glaring obvious thing, and fading between the two. That's quite hilarious, isn't it? Canyon and Giant have a very different idea about how the stem should be, and in fact, Giant by name, Giant by nature. So like I say, I quite like the Propel. Apart from that, so I wondered what it would look like if the Propel, if we could get rid of that and actually put on the Canyon stem. What would that look like? So there we go. That's what that would look like. Hopefully that's what the Giant engineers are working on as we speak, or something like that anyway. Anything but that. Okay, so let's compare it against the Cervelo S5, the super funky S5. That looks something like that. Incredibly different angles. This is the bizarrest stance of a bike that we have at the moment, I think. But actually, when all said and done, the touch points actually end up in fairly similar positions. Seat post obviously running at a very different angle. Apparently these reserve wheels are part of the Santa Cruz bike company. So there we go. Very different. Write down in the comments down below which one you prefer, the crazy S5 or the Aeroad. And here's a bike we looked at the other day, the Reacto. Looking between the two, this area around here is actually quite similar, isn't it? A little bit, similar angles going on around here, except the Aeroad's more filled in. I quite like the Reacto, I think it looks pretty cool. I definitely prefer the scratch saddle. Not mega keen on these ones. In fact, I thought it'd be quite cool to see what the Canyon looked like with the scratch saddle on. Looks more like that, and to me that looks better. Nice. What about the Timemachine from BMC? That might be on your shopping list as well. Looking between the two, quite a different stance to these bikes. Interesting difference around here. Very different. BMC's obviously got its fancy built-in shopping baskets. Be interesting to know how BMC build in a bit of compliance into this bike. If you've got it, let us know what the comfort's like. How about the SystemSix from Cannondale? This is the top end high mod SRAM access version, 8.5 grand. Pretty heavy, 7.9 kilograms. Massively deep aero section tube in here. Again, I wonder about the comfort on this bike. If you've got it, let us know what you think. And I've never been quite sure about the sort of weeble warble shape here on the front of this bike. Looks a bit odd to me. So this wouldn't be complete without comparing it to the SL7 now, would it? I know it's not an aero bike, but seeing as Specialized don't have an aero bike now, the SL7 is the only offering. Unless of course you include the bike that Specialized released yesterday, the Atheos I think it's called, but that's definitely not an aero bike. So these two bikes here, Pretty similar around the stem area. The specialised stem is about the closest to the Canyon one as far as size is concerned, and it's still a bit chunkier. Tarmac seems very skinny when you compare them, obviously, because it's not a aero bike, or not a full aero bike anyway. And if all your mates are planning to get the Aeroad and you don't want to get it because they're all getting it, perhaps you could pick up a cheaper Venge now. Although having said that, they're probably more expensive now. They've probably gone up in value, but if you can get hold of one, this is the difference. Not a million miles off there. All pointing in the same direction. Ah, the poor old Venge. Still looks good. Pretty similar along here. And then last but not least, this popped up on my desk the other day. The AR FRD Ultimate from Felt. I'd not seen this version before. This is fading between the Aeroad. What do we think? Felt. I've got some slightly different ideas about what to do with the seat post. Quite a cool looking bike, I quite like that. Very fancy pair of wheels on it. Canyon deciding to leave all this area here open. There we go, that's a whole heap of other bikes to choose from there if you're thinking about an aero bike. And of course there's many more on the market. Amazing how many bikes there are out there to choose from. Okay, so that's a bit of the competition for the new Canyon Aeroad. But what does the range look like, depending how much money you have to spend on your new Canyon Aeroad? Well, this is the top of the range CFR Canyon Factory Racing Disc EPS. Campy Super Record EPS group set, 12 speed. Pretty fancy dancy. This comes with the Bora 150 wheels and is weighing in at 7.32 kg, so nearly 9,500. Next down in the range, £1,100 cheaper, is the CFR Disc AXS Aeroad, and this comes with the more standard DT Swiss wheels that we talked about earlier, and obviously the SRAM Red eTAP Access group set. This one's coming in slightly heavier, 7.37 kilograms. Next, £500 cheaper again, we have the model we were looking at earlier. This is the Dura Ace Di2 version, and actually the lightest Aeroad that you can get, and the last in the CFR range. 7.26 kilograms, also with the DT Swiss wheels. Can't see any other differences there. We've then got a big jump of £2,200 down to our next model in the range, and that is the CF SLX 8 Disc Access. So we're not in the CFR brand anymore. This comes with the SRAM Force eTAP Access group set, and unlike the Tarmac SL7, we've got the full group here, and we aren't missing half the gears, and also coming in quite a lot cheaper than the SL7. Gone up a bit in weight, 7.73 kilograms. Same wheels, got a few little extra Canyon decals, but the bars look the same and all the cables are still hidden away. Okay, £300 cheaper than this one. We have the Ultegra Di2 version in this very bright blue. Love it or hate it. Ultegra Di2 coming in a little bit lighter actually than the Force edition, and like I said, it's £300 cheaper. So I think I know which one I'd go for. It'd be the Di2 version, personally. Okay, then another big jump down, £1,400. We go down to the CF SL8. So this is Ultegra mechanical, and the other change we have here is we have lost the fancy stem and bars, and we've gone back to the more conventional Canyon aero bars with the cables exposed and holes in the frame for the cables to go in. But it's a good deal cheaper, so maybe a good deal. Got a slightly different saddle as well, slightly fatter, and we've also gone to the Reynolds AR62 wheels. Okay, and then we drop down another £400 to the last in the range, which is the CF SL7 disc, Shimano 105. Still a cracking group set, same AR62 Reynolds wheels, and obviously the same exposed cables and more conventional handlebar. That's coming in at 7.95 kg, and the Ultegra mechanical 7.78. So it all depends how much you want to save, 400 quid really. And that's pretty much it for the new Aeroad range. There is still a old style rim brake version on the website, but I haven't bothered loading that up for this. But there's definitely no rim brake version of the new Aeroad. Let's have a look at some of the prices across the group sets from these manufacturers. Up here on the left we've got the Aeroad CFR EPS, which is on its own because Canyon seem to be the only manufacturer offering the Campy Super Record EPS group set, so nothing to compare it to there. This set here is the SRAM Red eTAP Access group set, and at the very top end, as you can imagine, we've got the Madone, and at the cheaper end we've got the Aeroad, so there's a big jump between those two, and in fact the Aeroad is quite a bit lighter. In all these cases I do wonder how much faster the most expensive bike is in comparison to the cheaper bike in that group. The Reacto 9000E coming in as the next best value next to the Canyon. Now if we move across to the Dura Di2, again the Madone is the most expensive, 7.8 kilograms, and again the Canyon CFR Di2 is the cheapest, 6.26 kilograms. So quite a bit lighter, quite a bit cheaper, and it's quite interesting to see the foil comes in as good value in this group as well. Quite surprised by that. I thought the foil would be a premium casting bike. Of note also in this group is you've got the two Tarmacs looking pretty expensive here, the Sargon collection and the S-Works Dura Ace Di2 version. Okay, so moving on down to the SRAM Force eTAP Access group set group, and again the Madone is coming in as the most expensive, 8.32 kilograms, heavy. And actually it's the Reacto that's coming in as the cheapest Force group bike, 8.17 kilograms, so a little bit lighter and a lot cheaper, almost half the price of the Madone. And actually the Canyon gets pipped into third cheapest by the foil. Again, I find that surprising how competitively priced the foil is there. Okay, next in line is Ultegra Di2. And actually the most expensive one here is the S5 from Cervelo. And that is quite an eye-watering price for a Di2 Ultegra bike. Closely followed by the Madone. And again it's the Reacto coming in as the best value here. And actually the Ultegra Di2 is a good bit cheaper than the SRAM Force edition. Canyon sliding to the more expensive side when we get down to the Ultegra Di2, being beaten by the Propel, the Foil, the Tarmac SL7 Expert and the Reacto. Quite surprised by that. Bear in mind the specs on this Aeroad are probably quite a bit higher than this Tarmac though, that I know has pretty shoddy wheels on it. This Tarmac here is probably more in line with this Canyon. Okay, Ultegra Mechanical. Leading the expensive field once again is the Madone. Whew, that's a lot of money to pay for a mechanical Ultegra bike. 8.26 kilograms. Solidly beaten here by the Reacto 5000, although it is a little bit heavier, but so much cheaper. In fact, there's two Reactos to choose from here. The Canyon Aeroad Ultegra Mechanical solidly in the middle as far as value is concerned. Does surprise me. I thought that the Canyon bikes would all be at the lower end of the price point, seeing as they're direct to consumer, but it does seem that the cheaper group set versions of the Aeroad, you're actually not getting quite the same value as if you choose the higher spec'd ones. And then we move down to 105, and there's not many on offer here, there's only three. The Reacto 4000, the Propel Advance 2 and the Aeroad SL7. Still, it's quite a competitive weight, this 105 version of the Aeroad at 7.95 kilograms, when you consider that the Reacto is 8.49 kilograms. Also bear in mind that this Aeroad here at 3,399 pounds is quite a bit lighter than this Madone here at 6,250 pounds. So yeah, be interesting to take these two bikes out and see which one was the quickest. In this graph here, what I did was I sorted all the bikes, and I think there's 53 of them, by weight. All the solid red ones are the manufacturer's bikes where they don't list the weight, so that's almost half of all the bikes here. We have no clue how much they weigh, which is frustrating. But if we look at this other data here where we know all the weights, this one here being the lightest, the CFR Di2 Dura Race at 7.26 kilograms. This end here is obviously the lightest. So what you can see here is that the Canyon bikes all fall into the top half of the lightest bikes here. So that's got to be saying something. What that kind of means is that they're higher spec'd because the components are lighter. And as you can see, these Madones down here are all on the heavy side, and the cheap Reactos are on the heavy side as well. So looking at that, I would say that your best bet, if you're on a budget but you want a light bike and you want an aero, is the CF SL7 Aeroad. But that's got the exposed cables on it. If you want the hidden cable version, you do need to go for the electric drivetrain. So between these two here, and I would personally go Ultegra Di2. It's actually cheaper and lighter than the Force edition anyway. Interestingly, if you definitely want a hidden cabled aero bike, and you definitely can't spend much more than £3,500, I would say your best bet is actually the Scott Foil, which is a little bit lighter than the Reactos at 3,599. So actually maybe that's the pick of the bunch. So there we go, an interesting release from Canyon. It pleases me to see that they have brought out some new interesting stuff. Great to see that they've developed a new bike for the road, because it's been a long time, and fingers crossed we'll see an update to the Ultimate at some point. So if you like this video and you found it useful, give it a big old thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel.